Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this cookbook, the Something Different Dish. Odd in name, but good to try when you want to have a change. Now, this was published in 1915 in the United States. People often ask me how I choose which book I'm going to use and which recipe out of the book I'm going to showcase. Today we're going to do something called Cornish splits. This is a book that I've used before on the channel, a book sent in by a viewer. Thank you very much for sending these in. And I was in my office this morning thinking about what I was going to cook today, and I heard a thump on the floor, and I turned around, and I had been going through the books, and this one had, I guess, been teetering on the edge. It fell on the floor. I picked it up, and I said, oh, I've done a recipe out of this before. Well, I wonder what's in it. Let's look through it again. And this is a great little book. It's missing, I don't know how many pages, countless pages where a previous owner has cut out a recipe that they wanted to keep, I guess before they gave the book away. And they're all oddly named recipes. They are recipes that somehow the name has tickled the fancy of the author. She has gathered these from newspaper articles in the United States in the early 1900s. They're mostly English recipes. And so as I was flipping through this, I came across a recipe that we did a month ago on the channel called a Rough Robin cake. And I found that in another cookbook. One of these books. Is it one of these? Yes, here it is. The Battersea Polytechnic Household Cookery Book. And the Rough Robin cake was in this book. And as I searched for it online and through my other English cookbooks, I couldn't find another recipe for Rough Robin. Posted the video. Tons of people looked for Rough Robin cake and couldn't find it either. There's a recipe in this book for Rough Robin cake. So I'll put those two up so that you can compare the two. We're going to do something called Cornish splits, mostly because I have no clue what a Cornish split is. I've got some ideas based on what the recipe says. I think it'll be an interesting recipe to make because it sounds like a lot of other recipes. But I've done absolutely no research on this recipe. I want to make it and sort of discover it without coloring my perception based on what the Googler says. So this is a reverse cream recipe, which means in goes the flour and the fat, which in this case is butter. And we cut those two together, which this stand mixer does very nicely. So what we end up with is something that looks and feels like wet sand. I mean, you could grab it in your hand and take a fistful and pack it together really nicely. To that, we're going to add the barest amount of sugar, a tablespoon of sugar, and some salt. And as that mixes in, I'm going to grab the next ingredient, which is currants. Raisins de Corinth, Zante currants, Zante raisins, Corinthian raisins, currants. They are a form of raisin. I feel like that should be a drinking game. Every time I rant about currants, you should have to take a shot. Okay, so in go the currants. Okay, so this is a very sparse recipe. There's not much going on in here at all. It shares a commonality with a lot of other English recipes, like the Singenheine we did a while back, which was almost like this, but cooked in a giant pan. Welsh cakes are very similar to this, maybe not exactly the same, but kind of in the similar vein. It could almost be a scone or a scone, but it doesn't have any leavening. We'll see where this goes. Now it asks for buttermilk. In this time period, where this is from, the buttermilk they're probably asking for is actually the liquid left over after you've churned butter. That liquid. This is not that. This is a cultured milk that is sold in North America and called buttermilk. Has the same sort of... does the same sort of thing. It's liquid. It has a lot of flavor. It's high in acid. And you can use it pretty much wherever you would use the other original OG buttermilk. Just says to put it in until you get a moisten with sufficient buttermilk or water to work into a nice, smooth paste. Let's see. I'm going to say just a little bit more buttermilk. Not much. Be very careful. There we go. That's good. Now, it says to roll out 1.5 inches thick, which is pretty thick. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the bench, and we'll get this out onto the bench. It just kind of holds together. I might have needed a little bit more buttermilk. We'll see once we get it out here. And I don't know that I'm going to roll it. I think that there's just enough dough here that I can, because 1.5 inches thick. I think that's 1.5 inches. So we'll get a cutter. Just says cut it with a cutter. It doesn't say what size cutter to use. Let's try that size. Okay. Okay, so I've got 3 cut out. I'm just going to gather this up into a ball, flatten it out again to 1.5 inches. I could probably get 2 more. Yeah, I think I can get 2 more. Okay. I don't know how that 1.5 inches, because I have no clue what's going to happen here. So, but I kind of like baking that way. Without knowing what it's supposed to be, I'm able to make it how I think it should be and see how that works out for me. And I think that's how cooking in your own home should be. 5 nice ones and 1, who knows. Into the oven they go. Okay, so I have no clue whether these are actually baked or not.
Well, that's a great place to enter. Hi, friends. Hi, Glenn.
So it says a very hot oven or a hot oven. What did it say?
I want to poke at
Cornish splits.
Well, they're a little bit brownish.
Bake in a hot oven for 12 minutes. So
hot.
at 12 minutes, there was no way that they were done. Absolutely no way that they were done. So I put them in for another 5, and then I sort of peeked through the window for probably another 3 or 4.
They look done.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. You crack it open.
Split with a fork and spread with creamed butter. Serve very hot. Okay, so let's
very hot.
split it open. Okay. Steamy. Whew. Look at that.
Not quite cooked.
So they're back in the oven.
Okay, you take a good guess, right?
12 minutes. Not enough.
All right, so version 2. It's definitely hot. Whew.
Yeah, it's cooked a little bit better. These 2 would be cooked.
They are pretty thick.
They are. Okay. So, serve hot with butter.
You can barely touch them. It feels too hot. Just saying.
She says serve very hot.
I know, but it's like too hot to touch. Don't I have to be able to touch the biscuit? Whew.
I can see them. Woo.
Glenn has a very concerned look on his face. That was too hot. I needed it to cool a little bit more.
Because I can't place it. The texture isn't like a scone or an American biscuit. There's no leavening in it, so I kind of didn't expect it to
Almost
be
like
like
a
that.
pie dough.
It's very much like a pie dough. Mm-hmm. So, and it's also taken away from, based on the ingredients, I thought it might be kind of like the Singin' Heine that we made. or Welsh cakes, but its texture is completely wrong. It
No,
is
'cause
very much like a pie dough, isn't it?
or like a shortbread. It's got that.
When I first put it in my mouth, it was like, oh, it's a shortbread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's still too hot to eat. I think I'll serve it slightly warm. It might be more my style.
Interesting. Okay, so I know we've got viewers from this part of the world. Are you from Cornwall? Have you ever heard of Cornish splits? Does your family make them? Did your grandmother make them? Do you know what this is?
Can you tell us if we did it right?
I guess now I have to go and do some research. I purposefully did not research these before I made them because I just wanted to come in blind and see what happened.
There's not a lot of flavor to them, though. But the texture is intriguing. Like clearly, I'm the.
Okay, let us know below. Please let us know below what your experience is with this. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. Oh, did you look at the beer chicken? Did you see the beer chicken video? Oh no, the beer chicken video doesn't come out until next week.
Oh, you're so cute.
Check out the beer chicken video next week.
The best bitter beer chicken ever.